Hello and welcome to our podcast again, Talent Thrives Here. I'm your host, Lance Lafort. I run Lafort Talent Group. We're a boutique management firm. We cater to clients in entertainment, emerging tech, and related fields. Today, I've got a group of recruiters on our panel. They either work solo or in small firms across North America. I'd like to go around the table and get some introductions so you know how everyone is. And please, everybody, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company. On my left, let's start at the top. Mitchell, on my screen, give us a little bit about who you are.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me, Lance. My name is Mitchell Riley. I own OPS Staffing, and we recruit for insurance restoration contractors, the people that go in and fix up buildings after they suffer any type of damage throughout the United States.
Great. Thanks, Mitchell. Welcome to the show. I'm going to toss it over to Renee. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Thanks for having me, Lance. Renee Dovich. I am the CEO and owner of Career Encore. I'm up in the greater Boston area. Clients and candidates are nationwide, and my focus is on tech startups and SMB companies, mostly software as a service. And I recruit C-level on down through building out their teams with the focus on revenue generating.
Great. Thanks, Renee. Welcome to the show. I'm going to go down to Lisa. Lisa, tell us a little bit about your company and your experience.
Thanks, Lance. I'm Lisa Oxenhandler, based in St. Louis, and I work with small to mid-sized insurance companies and agencies who are trying to maintain and improve their culture by hiring the right people for profitability.
Excellent. Thanks, Lisa. Welcome again. Jaime, over to you.
Hello, I'm Jaime Nunnalee. I'm also in St. Louis, Missouri. My focus is on sales and HR. I've owned my business for 8 years now, and that's it.
Great. Thanks, Jaime. Welcome again. And last but not least, of course, Shane, tell us a little bit about your background, your company, what you do.
Sure. Hey, Lance, thanks for having us. My name is Shane Fairchild. I run a company called Four Pillars Talent. I'm based in Columbus, Ohio. We do searches nationwide, primarily anything accounting, finance, audit, and tax related. But we have dabbled in a lot of other areas as well. And I've been recruiting now for a little over 9 years, been on my own for 5. And prior to that, I spent 14 years doing accounting, finance, audit, and tax.
Excellent. All right. Great. Thanks again. Welcome to the show. Question one for the panel. The economy's gone up and down the past few years, pre-pandemic, pandemic days, post-pandemic. We've seen, certain industries have gone into overdrive in hiring, and other ones have seen huge layoffs. I'm curious, does your market have a shortage of good and active candidates right now? Anybody want to jump in on that? Are you finding it hard to find the right people for your clients, or is there sort of a dearth of people on the job market looking to get hired back?
I can chime in. There's definitely a shortage of accounting candidates. I would say, folks with experience of anywhere from 1 to 10 years. I know there have been, quite a bit of layoffs and hiring freezes, and I have a much larger pool of talent at the executive level. So folks making, let's say 300K on up at that level. But for the, more earlier career professionals, there is a shortage of talent there for sure.
Right. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I have that same issue. The lower level candidates are really, really hard to find, next to impossible. Upper level, I wouldn't say that I have an abundance, but certainly more than.
Right.
I can chime in too. In HR, there are a lot of good candidates. It seems like a lot of companies downsized HR teams last year.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of really strong talent in the market. But on the sales side, the sales piece has definitely picked up. There are more companies adding and growing their sales teams, and there are good people in the market looking to transition. So that business has been steady.
Yep.
I'd agree with Jaime on the sales side. There's a lot of good candidates out there. There's a bit of movement going on, and companies are starting to scale their teams again.
Yeah. Mitchell, any comment? Would you agree?
Yeah, my industry is kind of its own world. It's very recession resistant, right? Like your pipes burst, things break, buildings have to get replaced.
Yeah.
When COVID happened, my clients transitioned and we're doing a lot of COVID cleaning. So like one of my big national accounts, Belfer, was the first ones to figure out how to clean the cruise ships. The biggest challenge restoration contractors have is finding good laborers to come into the industry. And I think that kind of goes across all industries, right? Labor is really tough to find. The other challenge is everything's a very niche skill set. So you can't cross train, like a project manager that builds high rises will have a hard time transitioning into restoration because the project count's different. So there's not a lot of cross transferable skills from one industry to another. So it's a bloodbath of people robbing talent from each other because it takes years to get them trained up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, interesting to say that too, because, you know, in the industry I work in entertainment, there was a ton of training going on, or there needs to be more training. And I find almost every industry doesn't train. It's that same thing. If they can cannibalize a competitor's team, it saves them the training component, right? They don't have to then have that spend on getting people up to speed. And because as you said, it does take quite a while, sometimes years really, to get people up to speed. So, okay, great. Next question I'd like to throw out, are there any challenges you face with your clients on a regular basis? If you could advise them on something or several things, what would you say? How can you help them help themselves and help you, I guess, is my question, because sometimes clients work in their own world, and you know, tapping into someone like yourselves, an outside recruitment firm, you may have a different perspective on the market than they have on the hiring market. So I'm just curious, anyone want to comment on that?
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I'd be happy to start. I
Right.
think my challenge right now is still getting feedback and moving through the process quickly, like being open-minded too on salary and compensation. Sometimes people are looking at salaries that were 5-10 years ago and wanting to keep the same range,
Right.
and they've increased. So getting customers to understand what people's true value is and getting them to make a decision quickly is still the biggest challenge.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree. Just
Me
holding
too.
the feet to the fire on the process to move it along, because that's how they lose candidates and have to start over again. And it's the longer a position goes unfilled, the more money it's going to cost the company.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the biggest thing is, like, it all comes down to good old fashioned communication. You know, we're not mind readers, so it's important to know what's going on behind the scenes. And, you know, some companies are better about keeping us abreast as to what's going on than others. But another thing I would say too is, you know, I've had companies reach out to me to help out with their searches. And what they don't realize is sometimes it can take 2 to 3 months to get a contract in place,
Right.
because you're having to work through internal recruiting with their legal team, as well as procurement, and everybody's kind of got different agendas.
Yeah.
So it takes a while, you know, before I get a contract in place, before I can even get started on that search. So, you know, I always tell folks, like, hey, even if if you don't have anything open now, if you feel like you'd want to work together in the future, let's get something in place so that
Yeah.
way, when you reach out to me, we can hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Luckily, I don't encounter that because the majority of my clients are small to mid-size. But like you said, Jamie, just keeping the communication open, even if you can't meet with somebody until next week, let's get it scheduled so they know that there's that interest, rather than allowing the candidate to run around doing other interviews and accept another position elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Keeping them warm, right? Keep the candidate
Exactly.
involved and
Yeah.
let them know it's moving forward. Because yeah, I think radio silence is really a death to the process sometimes, right? Like,
Yeah.
someone just says, "Well, I didn't hear back," or they're interviewing at 2 or 3 places, and sometimes the fastest moving one gets the candidate, right? First
Right.
offer out. Sometimes, yeah.
But I also think that's part of our responsibility in letting the employer know that they are interviewing. And
Yeah.
if they lose them, then they realize, it was because they didn't move fast enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else, Renee or Mitchell, want to chime in on that one, or we're good to move on?
Yeah, I run into a lot of the same, I think all recruiters, same problem, moving people through the process, open communication. made a real concerted effort the past couple of years of pinning clients down. What's your interview process? How does it work? How long does it take? Know it all going into it. So if their first step is a Zoom or an in-person, I already know that. I don't need to wait for them to answer that question. If they say they're interested, what's your availability? My biggest issue in the restoration world right now is salaries, right? The cost of homes increasing drives replacement cost up, and the estimating platform they have to use is always behind, right? So if you have a market like Denver where homes skyrocket very quickly, the estimating platform lags about a year behind on the replacement cost, and then salaries tied directly to it. So you lose talent to other industries because we can't keep up with increasing the salaries because we are at the mercy of the big insurance companies. And you know, an ugly truth of our industry is they're not there to take care of you. They are there to lessen the claims cost.
Right. Right. It's an interesting point too. That Shane was bringing up about getting registered even as a vendor. And like in our own firm, I remember a couple summers back where we'd started the search, but they still couldn't hook us up as a vendor for about 8 weeks. They were going through channels and just bureaucracy, you know, and red tape. And eventually we got hooked up as a vendor, and then even payments seemed to take 9 months. So that was a little interesting watching a multinational. Just the framework behind closed doors was a lot more cumbersome than some of our smaller mid-sized clients, and you know, they can flip a switch and get things done really quickly. So that was a little eye-opening. The larger firms, just the process, the food chain of getting just set up was pretty interesting. So also curious if we go sort of to a candidate level sort of conversation. Have you experienced any candidates ghosting you? Because I keep hearing about it during the interview process. It rarely has happened to me. I can't say it has, but I'm curious, you know, when you've got maybe 2 or 3 candidates in for a role, or even just one, and they don't get back to you. Or the other thing I've heard of is like taking a job and then not showing up for it. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it. Have any of you experienced those sort of things?
I'll go. What I have seen happening in the hearing, and it's not so much that I experienced it, it's just what I'm hearing as I've been having conversations. There was a tremendous amount of ghosting going on last year. A lot of the candidates I was speaking with were chief revenue officers, VP sales, and they were being ghosted by companies that they were interviewing with. To the point that there was ghosting going on even after they made a verbal offer. There was one person I knew that had been out of work. He had 2 offers on the table. He accepted one verbally, declined the other, and then they ghosted him. So he didn't end up with either job. And this was a C-level candidate.
Wow.
And that was happening a lot last year from what I was hearing. Yeah. Not so much on the candidate side. It was more on the company side.
Yeah. Huh.
I-
Wow.
I recently encountered not quite ghosting, also a C-level person. The company wanted him to put together a proposal, a plan for like 90 days. And he kept saying, I'll get it to you in the next couple of days. I'll get it to you in the next couple of days. Never did it. I'll get it to you tomorrow. Never did it. Ultimately, I walked away because obviously if he's not putting together the plan that he keeps promising, he's not interested. I was surprised at that level that he didn't have the nerve to say, I'm not interested, or I'm not moving forward, versus just, okay.
Right. Right.
Lance,
Yeah.
go ahead, Mitchell.
Well, I was just gonna say I kind of run into it on both sides of the table. I've had clients that ghost candidates. I've had plenty of candidates that have ghosted. I have run into like offer accepted, day of the start date. Hey, I accepted a counter offer. So I've seen a lot of it. I think we're in this broken cycle that takes 3 parties to fix it. And as the hiring managers and the recruiters, it's our job to lead the way on it. Like if we want candidates to quit ghosting us, then we have to treat them better. And we've pretty much failed across the board at doing that.
Do you
Yeah,
have
so
thoughts about improvement for that, Mitchell?
Yeah, I personally, my team, our approach is I'm not going to leave a candidate in the wind. I'm not afraid to give them tough feedback, tell them, hey, they're not interested. If I'm allowed to give them any coaching feedback, I'll do that as well. And I tell all my clients, look, I'm going to give them feedback. So if it goes 2 weeks, I'm telling the candidate, hey, XYZ company hasn't gotten back to me. I'll keep following up with them. But just so you know, I'm not ghosting you. They are. So I make it very clear to them that I will not be the broken piece of the wheel here. And it's going to be a reflection on your reputation. And usually when you get real pointed with a hiring manager on this affects not only your company's brand, but your personal brand. This is a tiny industry we're in, and they're going to remember your name, whether you're here or another company down the road. And all that stuff matters. So that's kind of been my approach to it. Again, it takes, 3 to tango, right? So all of us have to agree on it.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
you. Very transparent with both sides so that that doesn't happen either, the ghosting stuff. Yeah.
In my space, I feel like there's more the clients moving slowly. Candidates are been very responsive. People they're out of work or have been displaced. They're looking to get back to work quickly. I also ask every candidate and client if they're comfortable with texting. And that's been a game changer the last few years. I text people for interviews constantly. I mean, I ask them, I note it in my database so they know, but I think that puts pressure on people to respond to. And I'll put in a text if it's been a while, hey, did something change? If so, just let me know so I can pivot accordingly and put the ownership back on them. Like, just tell me something. And they usually are like, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm not interested. But it's a little disassociated when they don't have to check their emails. They don't have to answer your phone calls, and they can fire a quick text back.
Yeah.
Lance,
good
I'll tell you,
point.
like, I was gonna say, I've definitely had over the years, some candidates that have ghosted me. And it's always, disappointing. It's like, they were abducted in the middle of the night by aliens. But usually anytime I, start off a conversation, I'm just right out of the gate, I'm like, hey, look, I'm not a pushy guy. At the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you and your family.
Yeah.
All I ask for is just honesty and open communication. I'm not a mind reader.
Right.
If you want to go for it, I'll help you. If you don't, if you want out, just let me know. And
Yeah.
try to set that precedent right on the front end so that they know that, I'm not just trying to make a quick buck and get them placed and move on to the next thing. Like, I actually care, I
Right.
want to do the right thing. But usually when folks, are immature and don't get back to me, like, sometimes I'll try to be playful and I might play the Ghostbusters theme song with one of those little Ghostbuster emojis and send them a text and say, I ain't afraid of no ghost. And sometimes they'll respond.
Funny.
You got to make it fun. I mean, it's, sometimes too, like, life things happen that are unexpected. So I always try to assume positive intent.
Yeah.
But sometimes people just, vanish and you never hear from them. And
Right.
so,
Yeah, I think we're also, as recruiters, battling like a stigma sometimes, or they've had a negative interaction with, a recruiter once or twice before. So I think we get tarred by the same sort of guilt by association. Oh, another recruiter calling me. This is going to be a whatever. But yeah, I do find what you're saying there too, Shane. You really got to sort of keep them involved, make sure that they understand that this is happening, and it's that keep them on point. Hey, we need this in a timely basis. We need that in a timely basis, rather either side, and I think Mitchell said it too. Like it does take 3 to tango, if I could use that term. I like that term. I thought it was 2, but clearly it's 3. So that's good. So I'm just curious, moving forward, any predictions for the year ahead? Is your market sort of heating up or slowing down, or, each one of you has a different sort of view of the market itself. And I'm just curious, what's 2024 look like? Can we crystal ball gaze a bit?
I will start this one if that's okay.
All right,
So,
go for it.
so I'll tell you, man, the world's been a little crazier and crazier ever since COVID. We've gone through a pandemic. We went through riots. We went through divisive politics and talk of civil war and World War III. And now there's AI and real life Terminator stuff. And now the government says, hey, there's aliens and UFOs. And so it's just a bizarre time. Like, I no crystal ball as to what's going to happen. I hope and pray nothing crazy happens. A little worried that, in a year of election, there's going to be some craziness this year, and I'm really hoping we don't have some sort of a black swan event,
Mm.
that takes us in a bad direction. But who knows? Right now I'm just controlling what I can control, and hope that cooler heads prevail, and people can lower the temperature, and we can all just get along and get back to business.
Yep. Excellent. Anybody
I'm-
else? Go ahead.
I'm optimistic. I see it picking up. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm hearing. That's the pulse that I have in the market right now. Last year for tech companies stunk. Everybody was kicking the can down the road and holding their budgets tight and laying off. But it's definitely turning as far as my world with tech companies and sales and customer success type roles.
I'll agree with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I've seen already in January an uptick of clients moving things forward, budgets being approved, initiatives being kicked through for the year. So I'm cautiously optimistic as well.
Me too. I may be Pollyanna since it is an election year and, things can get kind of wacko, but all indications are that it's going to be a really good year.
Right. Mitchell, any predictions with the restoration market?
Oof, I am in a real interesting space where it's pretty consistent, but you do have what we call whale years when there's large cat events. So it's an industry where your clients really get amped up in a sick enjoyment when there's hurricanes coming, because they know they're going to make a lot of money, and they'll ultimately get to help a lot of people. But it's an industry that takes disasters to drive business. I usually don't see the hiring until about 6 to 12 months after those things, but last year was pretty mild. There weren't a lot of weather events. There was no major hurricane. Like, the worst thing was this deep freeze that came through. And that was pretty, we didn't even have wildfires in California, which is strange. That's usually a pretty consistent disaster. So we'll see. I live on the Gulf Coast. I kind of hope there is no hurricanes personally, but
it's a very big conflict of interest, right?
It's a massive one.
Well,
Lance,
look,
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Want to make sure you chime in. I know you had to deal with the Writers Guild last year.
Oh yeah.
How's
my
that
little
impact?
Yeah, animation, visual effects, AR, VR, video games. There's been cuts everywhere. The writer's strike killed everything last summer hard for a good long time. So the industry is still getting back up on its feet, but there was a report just published last night by a analyst group that looked at how AI is going to impact jobs, specifically in creative fields. And none of it was very sunshiny. It was pretty doom and gloom. So I think that's it's like a perfect storm, right? I wish somehow I could figure out Mitchell's angle on my industry, because there's a big catastrophe every sort of few months right now. But interestingly enough, like, some of the smaller firms have started to hire back. Some of the big ones are still sort of very conservative, hanging on to their money. And the other thing I found really interesting, I go on job boards and put notes like, if they're recruiter jobs, please alert me. And if they're talent acquisition jobs or vice president of talent acquisition or any of the TA type roles, I put on several job boards. So this is my little marker of when companies start getting busy, because they start hiring their recruiters back. And in the last couple of weeks, bing, bing, bing. I don't know if it's just because it's January, New Year, but a lot of recruiter roles opened up in the last couple of weeks, which means those companies are getting ready to fight, right? They're getting ready to duke it out and get candidates in. So that's always a good sign. And because, I think recruiting in several industries was really hard last year because of all the layoffs, and there's too many candidates out there, so the value proposition of why would I hire an agency recruiter when I have 400 or 500 applicants every time I post a job? I think we live and breathe sometimes when the economy's on all cylinders firing, and they can't find people. And then they call someone like us and go, hey, I'm really struggling right now to find people. I really need to bring a specialist in on that. So But yeah, to your point, Shane, I think our industry's trying to get back up on its feet right now, but there's a whole bunch of things still impacting it. So I've been advising people, like, we're still not out of the fire on this. It's going to be a challenging year. Pivot wherever you can, pivot to things that are adjacent to the industry. Don't wait it out, because I think they've already waited 6 or 8 months, a lot of them. And some of them have, literally, you see stories of people selling their homes or losing their homes because they waited too long. So yeah, it's been bad for the entertainment industry last year, and tech. We were hoping people could pivot to video games, and then all the video game studios started laying people off. And it was like, oof. So it's a challenging time. But anyways, I don't want to dwell on that too much. Thank you all for being here. If people want to find you, how do they get in touch? Could everyone just go around and get a roundtable and just either give us your website or any other thing? I'm sure on LinkedIn as well, they can find you there. But just give a shout out about who you are, where they can find you if people want to interface with you.
I'll go.
Anybody?
I'll start. Renee Dovich. I'm on LinkedIn. Career Encore is my website. Yeah, reach out. Happy to have a conversation.
Great.
I'll go next. I'm Jaime Nunnalee. I'm on LinkedIn as well. My website is at nsrtalent.com and would love to connect with anybody.
Great.
And I'm Lisa Oxenhandler, and I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, and website is recruitingforgrowth.com.
Great. Excellent. Mitchell, Shane?
Mitchell, go ahead.
Yeah, Mitchell Riley on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm a millennial. I'm everywhere. You can find me on anything. Website, opsstaffing.net, and my cell phone's 832-477-2011.
Okay. Shane, finish it off.
Yep. So Shane Fairchild, Columbus, Ohio. I'm on LinkedIn and some other social media platforms. The website is 4pillarstalent.com, and the phone number is 614-439-2913. And what about you, Lance?
We're in Toronto, but we've got clients all over North America, and it's www.lafortetalentgroup.com. And again, LinkedIn's the easiest one to find me. I'm on there every day. Thanks, everybody. Once again, I really enjoyed the chat today, and hopefully we'll do it again soon. And we'll post this up shortly, and I'll put some links as well in there as well if people want to find you, so that'll help them out. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Lance.
Lance.
Thanks, Lance.
You.